Good morning, Tim Sykes here, pre-market video. Just reviewing some plays that I see and answering some questions that I'm getting. Challenge students, please be ready with questions. I'm giving a webinar, tomorrow? Jack Kellogg is also giving a webinar tomorrow. So come ready with questions. It's crazy, crazy, crazy to me how many times you guys ask questions on email and on every different platform all the time, except when I actually can and do answer questions in my challenge webinars. Part of the reason why I answer them in the challenge webinars, in case you don't know, is that I like to illustrate my points with charts. And some of these explanations are nuanced. So some people are like, I just email you one question. Why can't you answer it? I'm not going to reward bad behavior. I'm not going to reward people who don't follow simple instructions, okay? I can literally answer all these one-offs one at a time, and it won't help you at all because I won't have the chart, it won't be nuanced, it won't be detailed, and you'll always have more and more one-off questions. I've been teaching for 15 plus years, okay? I know what I'm doing, I know how to teach. Do me a favor and just respect the rules. But I get it, you get questions, you have questions, you forget the rules, you just want answers. I understand, okay? I really do. That's why I try to make videos like this later on, just to go over some of like the top questions. I have some other questions. I gave an inner circle a few days ago in Miami. I'll post the video. I answer a bunch of questions there too. If you're in inner circle, then you can ask me questions. That's the benefit of inner circle. We do these quarterly meetups. It was awesome seeing so many of you in Miami. So I'll post the Q&A too, okay? So it won't just be the challenge webinars, inner circle. You guys can ask me questions in person. That's it. Please respect my time. I'm already like on the verge of like insanity. You don't want me flipping over. I'm here to help you. You want me to stay as sane as possible in this industry. Now roughly 15 grand on the year, like a month and a week into 2024. Pretty good for me. Trading really small. Just taking a few $100s in profits. Surprisingly, your profits don't always concur with how good the play is. Sometimes you get a little lucky. I got a little lucky on MIRA. I got a little unlucky on GRRR. GRRR was actually a far better setup than MIRA was, interestingly, but I made far more on MIRA. That's going to happen sometimes. The stock market isn't like, oh, you will make more on the best setups only. Sometimes if you execute a trade from start to finish, like I did on MIRA, you get rewarded. I did not execute a good trade on GRRR. And in case you're wondering why I'm buying these, crappy stocks with terrible, long-term performance, again, watch my last 200 video lessons. It's crazy to me that you guys aren't seeing this, but we are in opposite world. We are in inverse world, okay? Depending on what TV shows or movies you like, it's like the upside down world. It's the, what was that other movie? I can't even think right now. But we're in this time where because there's too many short sellers, the worst of the worst can become the best of the best, okay? Leave that comment if you understand. Say, we're in inverse times or we're in opposite land. You have to understand this. The reason why I don't short sell is not because there's not profits with short selling. It's because it's too crowded and a lot of the squeezes are just far too great. Okay? The cool thing about me trading plays like GRRR, even though I was too early because I'm buying it and the thing actually doubled from my buy, even though I had a terrible exit in hindsight, I still wouldn't change a thing in real time, as I'll go over in a second. But because, guess what? Many people are not methodical with their entries and exits. A lot of students did better than me on GRRR because the play took a little more time to develop. And sometimes I'm in and out too quick. That's going to happen. I ain't changing, okay? It didn't do what I wanted when I wanted it, so I got out. I'm very happy with my trade. But I'm happier that it did what I wanted afterwards. That means I'm on the right track. You guys who are newbies, you get discouraged when a play does what you want later on. And you're like, oh, this is so tough. It's not as tough as you think. And don't worry if it does what you want later on. You can always adapt your rules, or you can say, you know what? It's not for me. And GRRR, as I'll go over in a second, the breakout eventually was not for me. So there's a lot of stuff with trading. It's not just like, can I buy a good stock? Like, people want it to be overly simplistic. It's not. I think that you should study more. I think that you should really get into the nuances and the small detail, because the most money that you make will be in the smallest details that you learn that most others just, glaze over. They don't want to go into the small details. They don't want to think about the nuances. So let's talk about GRRR. As I said, terrible long-term chart. Why did I buy it? Normally you shouldn't buy a terrible long-term chart, because I thought that short sellers were going to be too aggressive. Oh, by the way, as I'm filming this, HOLO is up 40% pre-market. Terrible long-term chart. Former spiker. When I do my watch list after this video lesson, it's going to be up there, because, again, the worst of the worst can turn into the best of the best. They actually had some news here. They plan to join the Communications Industry Association. Woohoo! It's a joke of a PR, but again, it's what riles this up. And the reason why it's in the low twos is because there were a lot of shorts shorting this in the 180s and 190s, thinking that it's up too much. Always underestimating how far these things can go. GRRR, again, terrible long-term chart. Now it's irrelevant here at $1, but this is when I was buying it. It was already spiking. It had spiked from basically, 57 cents to 75, back down to 58 cents, back to 75, and I was buying it on the dip here in the 60s. And as it turned out, it was the right idea, but I didn't wait for the exact bottom. I thought that it might break out quicker. Pre-market trades, or not even pre-market, around the market open, these things can really fly. So, I was buying this stock and it just didn't spike up again. Like it went to the 70s. I think it hit 73 or 74 when I was in it. So I guess I could have taken, better profits, but I wasn't going for 73 or 74. Some people were like, Tim, it hit the 70s. Why didn't you take it? My goal is to sell in the 80s or 90s. Okay. So when you see me take these small profits, it's not because that's my goal. It's because it didn't work out. Some people are like, oh, you just wanted to make a penny a share. No, I didn't. Whether I make a penny or lose a penny, it's a scratch. It didn't do what I wanted when I wanted it. Within minutes of me selling, though, interestingly, it did break out, and it went, I would have been out here. I wouldn't have held to the ones. I would have been out here in the 80s or 90s. Like I said, my initial plan proved true, just not at the time that I wanted. And frankly, I thought that it might be a triple top. Like a lot of these fast-moving stocks don't break out. So perhaps in hindsight, I should have waited for an official breakout here. But it was also like a little later in the morning, and this is really the past few weeks, and really like the next 2 weeks are my time to travel. Then I'm toning it down in March and April. So 10:30, 11 a.m. Eastern, I'm all over the place. So this is, depending on which country I'm in, I've already been to like a dozen countries this year. I know I have problems. You guys have over trading problems. I have over traveling problems. We all got problems. But this was not a good time for me. I'm already fading. So I really like, pre-market or morning open plays. So yeah, it did what I wanted, but not when I wanted it. So I got out. I would do it all the same again. Again, hindsight 2020, wait for the breakout. But if you're going to wait for the breakout, it's going to be very quick. So recognize that. And I'm not really good. Like some of these plays move too quick for me. MIRA, same kind of idea where I'm, seeing this stock spike already. Like it already had a big spike. Where was it? My entry was like in the 120s. So it had already spiked. What was the day high? I'm trying to think. I should have done this the same day, but I was just so exhausted. I think it was like, yeah, it got up to the 150s right here. So I'm buying it, on the dip, thinking that it could keep going. They had a nice corporate update. So again, spiker with news. I think that it can spike multiple times. Did get a bounce from the 120s and it hit the 145s. And the reason why this was just such a better trade, especially profit-wise, is because I just waited for the dip. And frankly, I wasn't down, very much. So it wasn't that hard to add. Like some people say, like, Tim, why did you, buy it and then add? Normally you buy and then cut losses. But again, every play is slightly different. And I said partial fill. Whenever I say partial fill, it means I didn't get my full position size. I only got like 3,200 shares because it was spiking so fast. So I didn't want to chase it. But then it came down and I got my average to the 120s. So this was very good. And again, like as a newbie, if you want to cut losses quickly and not add, you want to be safer, you want to be more disciplined, by all means do that. But on this one, I saw how fast it could spike. I had a very puny position. I still thought that it could get to the 140s and 150s, and I was dead on right. Like my initial buy wasn't actually that great, but I'm glad that I didn't chase it. This was the best buy, and this was the best sell. And, you know, I didn't sell it right at the top here. It did get up to like 145, but for me, I'm not interested in like selling like to the penny. I'm trying to judge, can it break to new highs? Can short sellers really be scared? And as it turned out, short sellers were not scared. This was a double top. Interestingly, the volume was actually bigger right here. So normally, like if you have a morning spike, the volume is biggest on the first spike, and then you get like a second follow-up spike, and unless there's a big breakout, the volume isn't higher. There actually was more volume on the second bounce or the second spike, but it couldn't break new highs. So that tells me that there's more buyers here thinking that it's going to go up, but they're stuffed. There's more sellers. So you really have to be careful when there's a follow-up spike that's lower than the first high, but the volume is higher. This means that like the sellers or the shorts are determined. And, you know, as it turned out, it went all the way down to 1. Actually, you know, I didn't even realize this. Like when I was planning this video lesson in my head, I was like, oh, it's just down to 1. I'll do this video lesson later. I didn't even realize that it bounced back from 1 to 130. But this is a choppy stock, okay? Long story short, it's a spiker. You look at like the long-term history, terrible, terrible company. So in past DVDs and in past markets, I never would have bought this. But because this market is purely about can the short sellers get squeezed, I'm buying the worst of the worst. So I know that it's difficult, but you have to think opposite. You have to think different. And it helps for me, especially because, you know, I'm a former short seller. So I think like if I was a short seller, what would tempt me? All of these stocks would tempt me as a short seller. And because there's too many short sellers, that creates an imbalance. That creates these squeezes. And these squeezes are beautiful. So congrats to everybody on MIRA or GRRR, which, you know, literally doubled from my buy. So I was so early. Congrats to everybody on RVSN. I mean, this thing has spiked up so nicely. And I completely, you know, did not trade this thing well. But now it's fading a little bit. Like it can't sustain its strength forever. You know, but we're just trying to take it like one spiker at a time, one short squeeze at a time. And, you know, you can hate on my strategy. You can say I'm a coward. I don't care. You know, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. I'm going to adjust based on what I see happening. Some people are like, oh, Tim, will you trade bigger? Yeah, if I see a good trade, I have no problem. I'm not like, oh, I have to, you know, take these small positions. I take these small positions because it's better for, you know, my mindset. It's better for my circumstances as I travel. I think it's also better for you guys. You know, there's a bunch of traders in this industry. They like to trade big and they like to show their big wins. They don't like to show their big losses. But, you know, for me, I like just showing you all my trades, good and bad. Some of them will be bigger. Some of them will be smaller. But as you can see, like if I stay disciplined, if I cut losses, if I stay in my lane with, you know, my kinds of patterns, my account grows. The problems come in when, you know, I get FOMO, fear of missing out, when I start, you know, chasing other plays, other strategies. And I know that's what you guys go through all the time. Like there's so many strategies out there, and when you're first beginning, you don't know what to do. So just trade small and test and tinker around. Some people say focus on one strategy. I think that's a mistake. Because what if you perfect one strategy and then the market stops working with that strategy? You know, I think it's good to learn a few key strategies, you know, but I'm buying, you know, morning short squeezes, dip buying morning panics, buying afternoon breakouts with catalysts, very simple stuff. But in this hot market, you get rewarded. So I'll post one of the videos I did answering questions too. Again, challenge students, come ready with questions tomorrow on Thursday for me and Jack Kellogg. We're both giving webinars. Also, Ellis is giving a webinar like you have no excuse not to study and really get wise. Like we're really crushing it, not just in terms of trading, but in terms of trading education. And I'm really proud of the whole team. I'll see you guys in chat.